J.J. McCarthy, his knee soreness might be much more problematic than anyone anticipates. This take is presented by Hokeland Farm. Contact Hokeland Farm at 952-491-1541. Get the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. This beef is sold at quarters and halves, and they have custom sample packs so you can try before you buy. Contact Oakland Farms and get sirloin steaks, T-bone steaks, ground beef, chuck roast, and more. And get 20% off when you mention the Minnesota Tim podcast. 952-491-1541. Okay, so J.J. McCarthy, Jacob, we touched on this story a little bit and are going to touch on it a little bit tomorrow. But this story might be a little bit bigger than, we're just holding him out for precautionary reasons, because now it's not just sitting out a night practice on a Monday night. It's reported that he might not even travel with the team to Cleveland to participate in joint practices. And anytime a rookie is unable to practice with the first team, which was reported, which people were reporting was going to happen very soon, and he's going to get more and more reps with that first team. Anytime he can't practice versus other teams, which would, you would think increase his ability to learn defenses faster, just become a better overall quarterback, isn't happening. There's got to be some sort of concern. What are your thoughts on this whole ordeal?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't really know what the knee soreness is or coming from, but to speak to the seriousness of it, right, you can look at their actions. So, if they truly are thinking about holding him out for the week, essentially, that's a minimum of a week if you're missing all those Cleveland scrimmages, and then you're probably missing that preseason game. Very valuable reps, so that's not something they're going to let him skip just because they feel like it. For a rookie quarterback, a lot of people, that the trend or the way that the NFL is kind of going is that these inter-squad scrimmages, or these, whatever you call them,
the joint practices.
Joint practices, yeah, that's a better word for it. Because inter-squad would be their own squad, so that's not the right word at all. But the joint practices with Cleveland in this example, right? That's where the true preseason games are kind of taking place. They're kind of pulling away from that, game-like, and they're just making it, under their own control, under their own structure in a practice against another team. So that's where you would hope JJ would get a lot of reps, and probably reps against Cleveland's number ones, where they could truly test and see how is he doing, how is he picking it up, what does he look like, what decisions is he making against a defense that's actually pretty darn good. So the fact that they're thinking about having him skip this entire week, essentially, that means it, it's not just like, ooh, my knee kind of hurts. It's like, oh, I got actual, potentially a problem here that we need to kind of start looking at now so that it doesn't get worse. He'd be missing extremely valuable reps. I mean, if there was ever a doubt that, I don't think there is a doubt, but if there ever was a doubt that Sam Darnold was going to be your starting quarterback week one, this definitely, if this is any kind of legit and he misses any kind of time, you could almost put it in, Sharpie, it's going to be Sam Darnold. So
good point on the Sam Darnold take. Kevin O'Connell's quote, he says, out of precaution, we're going to continue an evaluation on him and get some more testing done. That sounds concerning right there. He's a very talented, important player, obviously, so we want to make sure we're smart before he participates, making sure we have a good understanding of where he's at. O'Connell later referred to McCarthy's situation as some kind of routine soreness that a lot of guys have after their first preseason game sometimes come in with, and it was something we wanted to be smart about. So calling it routine soreness, but then also saying that we need to do more tests, we need to kind of figure out what's going on, is a little counterintuitive. The Minnesota Vikings organization, the brass, the coaches, the general manager, are the absolute best at saying something without saying anything at all. They're the greatest peddlers of the line that I've ever seen in organization history, and this is an example of that. He said, it's out of precaution, but then at the same time, he's like, well, we need to kind of figure out what's going on at the same time. So another point to be made that I think is fair is Dallas Turner sat out of practice too, but nobody's reporting that he had knee soreness. It sounded like it was just out of precaution. So seems like two different situations.
Yeah, for sure. And then again, kind of an inverse to my other point. Like, if you already know, hey, we're probably not starting JJ week 1,
Mm-hmm.
there really truly isn't a rush. If you don't have plans to make JJ your QB1 anytime soon, and he has a little bit of soreness, it's not like, oh, we need to get him every rep as fast as possible because,
That's a good point.
starting the first week in September, he's going to be traveling to New York to play the Giants and be the QB1. If they're not making those plans, which I would imagine they're not, again, it seems like all signs are pointing to Darnold for week 1. This is the kind of thing you're not going to rush. You're not going to mess around with. This is kind of your life and blood for the next 3 to 5 years at a minimum, right? JJ's your hope in your future. Kwesi's hope, KOC's hope, probably. If those guys, if JJ doesn't pan out, that might be the end of those two guys. So
for sure,
it's their most valuable asset. It's their most protected asset. It's not something they need to rush. So if there's any kind of true soreness, it's understandable why they just say, screw it. Let's just keep them safe for a week. And the other thing with those joint practices, I feel like sometimes they get a little physical.
Yes,
by the
they
sounds
do.
of it, they turn into fights. There's some guys desperate to make a roster. There's guys desperate to make moves, and there's some foul play and some aggressive play and all that sort of stuff. So maybe it's also like, hey, it's not worth throwing him out there with Cleveland. Let's just let him rest for a week. But yeah, to not even travel would also be kind of interesting. You'd think you'd want him at least to travel and watch, right, at a minimum.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess I'm sure we'll learn a lot more today. But
yeah, that's so true. The rehabbing at the facility is
right. Maybe
probably
that's the main reason.
The idea. But at the same time, like, you made a good point. Like, you want him to at least be there, watch practice, get the feel for how it's looking, hear the play calls in his headset or whatever.
Right. Just watch Darnold operate, and how KOC and Darnold operate. Absolutely.
Yeah. A very interesting ordeal, and we'll be following it closely for sure. Jacob, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone, JJ McCarthy. We'll see what happens.